San Marino has the worst football national team in the world. The bottom of the FIFA World Rankings, local school teachers playing for the national team. Funnily enough, you can actually count the amount of games that they've not lost in the history of their football on both hands. The best result being a 1-0 win over Liechtenstein in April of 2004. But hold on, I bet there's some people watching this video who've never even heard of San Marino. San Marino is a landlocked country in the middle of Italy, with a population of just over 30,000 people. Majority of the country is built on a mountain, with a castle at the summit. It really is a place of extreme natural beauty, and being a place that I have visited before, I can definitely vouch for that. Now, despite the very small population, San Marino does actually have its own domestic football league, and I'm sorry for the pronunciation, it's called the Campionato Sammarinese de Calcio. I feel like if I did it in an Italian accent, it would just be offensive. Anyway, nowadays you don't really hear of any Sammarinese football players. However, probably regarded as the best football player from San Marino was Massimo Benini. Now 64 years old, born in San Marino, Benini was a defensive midfielder who actually made 192 appearances for Juventus. Between 1988 and 1992, he would actually make 112 appearances for Bologna as well. Between 1990 and 1995, he'd make 19 caps for San Marino and then actually go on to manage San Marino after his playing career between 1996 and 1998. Before we go any further, if you are interested in football content in general, then perhaps you should check out some of the other videos on my channel, of course, after you've watched this one. It would help me out a lot if you would subscribe to the channel if you enjoy, and of course that means you don't miss future videos. San Marino currently sit bottom of the FIFA rankings at 210th position out of 210. They'd reached their highest ever FIFA ranking position in September 1993, where they would soar up to 118th. Their first ever recorded game was on the 28th of March 1986 at home in San Marino against Canada's under-23 side, where they lost 1-0. Their first ever match as a FIFA recognised team was against Switzerland on the 14th of November 1990 at home in San Marino, where they lost 4-0. They recorded the biggest ever defeat on the 6th of September 2006, once again at home in San Marino against Germany, where they would lose 13-0. San Marino's biggest issue in terms of football is actually nothing football related, it's the population. Imagine if you created a football team in a small town, even a village, and said the only people who can play for this team are from this village. You can start to see why people kind of play football as a hobby, but end up in the San Marino national team, sometimes playing against huge countries. But does it have to be this way? Take for instance another landlocked country like Andorra. It's sandwiched between France and Spain. They have a slightly bigger population of around about 80,000 people. They of course have their own national team. However, in addition to the national team, they actually have their own football club, called Football Club Andorra. They play in the Spanish Segunda Division, and their team is mainly composed of Spanish nationals. However, at the same time, Andorra does have its own domestic football league, a league that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce because I would really butcher it. Now, of course, the domestic football leagues in countries like Andorra and San Marino are not great. They're mainly amateur/semi-pro. Something else that actually just slipped through the cracks, similarly to Andorra, San Marino also have their own actual club football team. It's called Victor San Marino, and they play in the 4th tier of Italian football. So San Marino have their own domestic league, granted it isn't great. They have their own club football team who plays in the 4th tier of Italian football, and they have their own national team. Having said that, the vast majority of players who play for Victor San Marino, the club football team playing in the Italian 4th tier, are actually Italian. This isn't so strange because there's a very similar concept that goes on in the UK. Teams like Swansea and Cardiff play in the English football leagues. Of course, both of those teams being Welsh. A while back, when San Marino were to face England, of course there was a little bit more research than there usually would be done into the San Marino national team. And it uncovered the actual professions of all of the players playing on the team. I mentioned before that there was a teacher. Maybe I was slightly wrong, I guess you could probably class that as a football coach. However, we have accountants, lawyers, somebody who owns their own olive oil company, one pro footballer, students. It's crazy to think. And I guess to put it simply, there's no wonder they're getting thumped in every single game. And that would explain the crazy celebrations for every single time they score a goal. Whether they're losing, I wouldn't say whether they're winning because they don't win. You've got to think that these people aren't professional footballers, and scoring for your national team is crazy. You know, you should cherish everything. Don't take things for granted, and these footballers definitely do not. Back in 2020, San Marino avoided defeat in 2 consecutive games, 2 0-0 draws. This is San Marino's player Dante Rossi, who couldn't hold back tears of joy because of the fantastic results. I think this really puts things into perspective and just shows how bad the San Marino national team really is. Not through any real fault of their own, but more down to geography and demographics. Simply where the country is located in the world and its size can't really be changed. Which realistically means no matter how much money and time San Marino invest into football academies, maybe training facilities, and anything else to aid the development of young players, it's really difficult to see light at the end of the tunnel for them. The only thing I can really suggest is maybe a somewhat similar approach Wales have. A good chunk of the players who play for Wales are actually English, but they're eligible to play for Wales. For the most part, these players make the jump when they realise that they've got more chance of getting in the Welsh first team rather than the English first team. The list of players is honestly probably much bigger than you think. Anyway, that's football in San Marino, the home of the worst men's national team in the world. That's not being mean, that's just facts. If you enjoyed this video, then maybe you should take a look at my previous video. It should be on screen now. In that video, we took a look at the rise of Heidenheim, a German football team who rose from the 4th tier up into the 1st tier into European football under the same manager. Anyway, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.